Hello, everyone. We will start in about 2 minutes, and we are waiting for a couple of people to join us. Hello, everyone from Israel, and this evening also from the UAE. First time for us. So in Startup Grind, we are hosting a monthly events in each city, and for me, it's the first time we can host the cross-chapter event with UAE. The UAE, sorry. We are waiting for more people to join us. We have more than 250 people that have registered. And I'm really excited for this opportunity to host these events from Israel and the UAE. Just let me know if you hear me somehow, do with hand. Yeah, thank you. We are waiting for more people to join. It will take another minute. We also succeeded to live stream it on Facebook. So we have bokra.net, the digital magazine, in their Facebook. They have 1.5 million followers. They are streaming it now live. We have our partners, JVP, the VC from Israel. We are hosting today also a Real Margalit. They are live streaming it from their Facebook page. I can't say good evening now because I can see some people from the community that are joining from different countries. So I will say hello, but it's also good morning for people in Silicon Valley that are going to join us. Early morning. 1 second. Okay. Okay, we will start now, and we are waiting also for Derek Anderson that will join us soon. We will try to add him after me. So I will just introduce myself. I'm Shachar Matorin. I represent Israel in Startup Grind for the last 8 years. And I feel honored and very excited to be part of this journey. And now in this bridge that we are going to build between Israel and UAE, it's a great opportunity for us to host cross-chapter events from COVID came. So before COVID, we hosted only monthly events, in-person events in each city. And from February, we have an opportunity to move and we adapt very fast the virtual event concept. And today, it's a really exciting moment for the community actually to build a bridge between those countries, two countries that empowering innovation, empowering women entrepreneurs now. We want to see more people from the startup ecosystem in Israel and the UAE collaborate, cooperate, sharing more challenges and needs. And I want to give the stage also to Derek, the founder of Startup Grind. I will try to add him soon. 1 second.
Okay. Hey, y'all, we're going to get started soon, so just bear with us. Shakar, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Second. Damu, can you join us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. We couldn't hear you for a second.
Yes. Can you join with your video to open your video?
Can everyone see me now? My video should be on now.
1 second.
All right, amazing.
Yes.
And Sada is trying to join. She's saying she's having some difficulty with her Zoom. So give her a second.
The technology is here, but we still need to use it smartly when we do the cross-chapter events.
So while we're waiting to get all of our speakers here, I have a small request for everyone that's joined us so far. First of all, thank you all for joining us. My request is that since most of us that are joining Startup Grind events, you're an entrepreneur, you're an investor, you're in the startup ecosystem. And so what we want to do is, as a part of the Startup Grind ethos, is to really help educate, inspire, and connect each other. And so while we have the chat window there, I would like for, if you don't mind, to chat in there, tell us where you're from, what part of the world are you zooming in from from when we did our lookup of all the registrations, we saw over 24 countries had signed up. And so we would like, for you guys just to highlight some of the countries that are here and visiting us. Amazing. Israel, UAE, amazing. I love it. And if you want, you can share your LinkedIn profile as well and what kind of business you may have, right? See how we can start collaborating today. Dubai, Bahrain, amazing.
We can see that 100 people already
Amazing.
joined.
Call centers. I'm not sure where that's at, but that's amazing. Good. Boston and Israel. Amazing. Yes. We believe collaboration is the new everything. Health tech. Amazing. Switzerland. Amazing. That's really cool. Renewable energy. Morocco. Yes, that's right. Good. This is pretty good. I'm excited. All right, let's see if Sada is in now.
She's here.
Let's see. Keep it coming. I saw the US. Okay. Very cool. Way to go, Colombia. All right, let's see, Sada. Okay.
It's working.
Okay, good. We got you.
Perfect. Yeah, right.
All right, there she is. The legend. Okay. Let's give it another minute or so. Make sure Derek is in as well. And then we'll go ahead and jump in. All right.
1 second. If he will not join us in a minute, I will try to take his place and share a little bit of what he should share. Let's see. It's very difficult to cross the ocean with the Zoom technology in the morning. So 1 second, let's give him another chance.
Additionally,
okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to say to the speakers that we have on the line so far, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way people can find you? Is it on Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn? If you don't mind sharing that in the chat, that would be amazing as well. Shakar?
Yeah.
All right.
I see that Derek has some problems to join. So let's start by saying thank you for everyone who joined us. If Derek will jump in, we will give him an opportunity to share with you a little bit of what's happening in startup right now and about our plans for the next year. We actually grouped together couple of friends, and now it's a huge family of people who are active in the startup ecosystem in different cities around the world. And we all on the same mission to educate, to inspire, and then to connect any entrepreneurs on planet Earth. We have a long-term mission, and we all believe together on giving first and make friends, not contact, and help others before yourself. So we want to feel comfortable in this room, 100 people here, more than 100, and we have some viewers on live. We want you to feel comfortable to share your needs and challenges with us as a community. We created a trusty layer between the startup ecosystem and the industry leaders. So if we, for the last 10 years, open the doors for both sides, we know how to listen, and we want to listen to your challenges and needs and try to help you. I can share with you that only in these months that me and Damu are working together on building this small bridge, we already saw some opportunities that become also deals. And just in the last months, we had an opportunity to help entrepreneurs from UAE to provide or to start building a kitchen for kosher food for Israelis and Jewish that will come to the UAE. And they are going to provide 10,000 kosher food meals to the hotel chains, to the airlines, and also to corporates who are going to host our business delegation. So I was really excited to see how those two groups collaborate together and they trust the Startup Grind connections. And us playing as a connectors or a professional connectors. So it's very important for us that you guys will feel comfortable to share your needs and challenges. We will try to help you. You can collaborate together as a community members in the Startup Grind community, but also you can feel free to reach our speakers or us as the directors. If we can help, we will try to open the right doors and to do it fast as we can. And now, Damu, if you want to start, I will give you the screen and I will shut up. Thank you very much. I really thank also our sponsors and partners that helped us to create this event. And I'm really excited to see the collaboration with them. Also, they are live streaming this event. We will record it and we will put it in the event page later. So if you missed something, you want to go back, it will be live, I think, from tomorrow. Damu, it's all yours now.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So before I begin, I just want to say, truly thank you for everyone who has joined so far. This really is an historic event. We're very fortunate enough to have an amazing panel. Definitely, I'm going to give each speaker an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves. But I just want to say a few things about the people that we have on the line with us, because I want to make sure that the audience is fully aware of some of these amazing people that are joining us. One, Derek is the founder of Startup Grind. Startup Grind has over 3.5 million individual community members. And so we're very honored to have him join us here today. We have Dr. Sarah Al-Madini. Hopefully I didn't mispronounce that at all. But, first of all, she's a woman of many hats, a serial entrepreneur. Most importantly, she's a mother, an advocate for women's fashion, fashion designer herself, a brand ambassador, and obviously a social media personality. And so we're very fortunate enough to have her here as well, join us. We also have a good friend of mine, Dr. Saeed Al-Dahari. He is an amazing individual. He's the author of a book called A Digital Nation, really that's talking about how the UAE became a digital nation. He's also a member of the Global Future Council on Virtual Reality and Augmented Reality. He's one of the founders of a company called OneGov or 01Gov. Highly involved in the UAE startup ecosystem, as well as highly involved in many initiatives that you may be, if you live in the UAE, that you may be aware of or not even aware of. He's just kind of a behind the scenes amazing person to definitely know. Then, of course, we have an amazing individual. I think he's joining us right now, which is Aral Margalit. I don't want to mispronounce anything here, but I was very fortunate enough to meet Aral about, was it a week ago, 2 weeks ago? And, his story, hopefully he can share it with us about how he became this architect for the startup ecosystem that's been growing and developing in Israel. I'll let him tell more about that story when he joins. So with that being said, I think Derek is here. Derek, do you want to say a few words real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Shahar and Damu, it's great to be here and great to be here for this event. Startup Grind is some of you may know, is a community that we started in my office in Silicon Valley many years ago. And it's really was designed to just bring people together, to be a forum where people could share ideas and help each other with their businesses and, make some new friends. It's very lonely when you're building a business. It's very lonely everywhere in the world right now. We need a lot less loneliness. So there's an epidemic of loneliness, and Startup Grind is hopefully part of the cure to people being less lonely. We have millions of members. We have chapters in more than 600 different cities, more than 100 countries. One of the things that was very fortunate early on to meet Shahar, who runs our chapter in Tel Aviv and things in Israel. And we started having chapters popping up all over the world and in different regions and somewhat controversial regions as it related to Israel at times. And I remember talking to him about it, like, hey, how do you feel about us having a chapter in this country or in this place, And Shahar, without, skipping a beat, without sort of even moving, he said very quickly, he said, maybe we can bring the peace. And, I kind of chuckled for a second, and then I thought, actually, maybe he's right. And, when the United Nations, when you have different people from these different countries stand up to speak, everyone from the other countries that disagrees with them walks out. And that's never really been how Startup Grind operated. And so I have spent 8 years of my life living outside the United States. I currently live in California, but I think for me, what I've seen living in amongst all sorts of different people around the world is that ultimately, at our most basic level, we're all just trying to feed our kids and take care of our families. And I think, the Startup Grind community is an example of really looking for ways that we can, build bridges and come together and just help each other to take care of each other's kids versus looking for the differences and easily finding those and making our relationships about that. And so I am grateful to be here, and I will pass the mic back over. But thank you for creating this historic event, to the team that's put it together, and thank you to everybody that is here this evening. It's great to see you.
Thanks again, Derek.
Thank you, Derek.
All right. Right now, again, we're still having a little bit of technical difficulty with some of the other speakers. So Sada is going to drop and rejoin so her mic can work a little bit better. In the interim, Dr. Said, would you mind sharing with the audience just a little bit of context about your background, who you are? I know you very well, and I'm very honored and privileged to know you. I would like for the audience between Israel and Switzerland and Germany and all the other countries we have joining us today to learn a little bit more about who you are from you.
Great. Well, thank you, Derek. Thank you, Damu. I'm really excited to be here with you tonight on this panel discussion. Like I said, Damu, it's a historic moment. Indeed, it's a historic moment. I think you said a lot about myself, but let me just give some snippets from my journey and from my story. I'm an academic and a tech specialist. I've spent about 30 years of my life between academia and the tech industry. I've done some advising and consulting work on digital transformation and innovation for many public and private sector entities here in the UAE. Also, I'm a public speaker, and I have a passion to speak about innovation and the impact of disruptive technologies on business and society. My focus areas are on the use of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning and deep learning, blockchain, digital twins, and you name it, in the government service delivery and in smart cities, smart city solution. I remember when I was a student in the States doing my master's degree at George Washington University. This was almost about 28 years ago. I was one of the first to work on back propagation algorithm at that time. And no one knows about AI, no one knows about machine learning and deep learning at that time. But it took me almost 3 days, to train my network on an IBM 80 machine for the network to converge and give me the results. Imagine, how fast we have come forward since then. But yes, now I'm more interested in future foresight as I am a director for the Center of Future Foresight at the University of Dubai. And what I'm doing is that focusing more on doing trend analysis, especially technology trends, and impact analysis of those trends and scenario planning in areas such as the future of education, future of energy, future of healthcare, smart cities, and space. As probably you all know that the UAE have announced the year 2020 as the year towards the next 50. So we are looking to design the next 50 years for the United Arab Emirates. And we have an aspiring vision by 2071 for the UAE to be the #1 country in the world. And I mean it, for the UAE to be #1 country in the world. With all that, I think last but not least, like you said, I have published a book last year with my colleague Ranjit Rajan called Digital Nation, how the United Arab Emirates is building a future based on tech innovation, describing the digital journey of the United Arab Emirates, challenges that we face, how we resolve those challenges, and lessons learned. So with all that, I think I'll stop here and I'll give a chance for other speakers to introduce themselves.
Thank you so much. I believe Dr. Ariel Margalit, the founder and chairman of JVP and Margalit Startup City, has joined us. Just a quick, bio about this wonderful guy. I met him, like I said, about 2 weeks ago, and an incredible individual. He's one of the chief architects of the Startup Nation in Israel. He's the founder of Jerusalem Tech Ecosystem, a visionary leader, championing innovation as a tool for economic growth and an engine for social change, and clearly a bridge that brings together people of all walks of life. So, Dr. Ariel, if you're there, do you mind saying a few words about yourself?
Sure, Danu. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you again.
Absolutely.
Last time we met on the roof near the pool, we had a great drink, but you gave me a book, I Don't Trust You.
That's a great book, man.
I didn't take it personally, but I read through it, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see you again, and thank you for Saeed. It was a pleasure hearing you, and thank you for organizing this. And I wanted to commend you and Startup Grind and Derek and Shahar and the great guys around the world. I think that what you're doing is fantastic, because before we do business, we need to get to know each other, and we need to be able to speak and share ideas. And as we all know, both as entrepreneurs and investors, it takes time before we are comfortable to make investments and to do things together. And it's wonderful that you're bringing all of us together. This to me is, I have to say, both for myself, for my partners and colleagues, and also for many of us in the startup world here in Israel and in New York, where half of our firm is located. It's a new beginning. Before we even talk about business, it's moving, it's inspiring. The connections that we have been longing for are happening in our own region. Israel is a small country, like the UAE. The UAE is amazing with its reach, with how big its trade and its business, and how big of an influence it's making in the region. And the thing that moved us, all of us, the 14 CEOs that were together with us, and the reporters and many of the people that were on the trip, is that the successful people in the UAE, entrepreneurs, it's not only about money, and it's not only about making the next profit. It's also about making a difference and making an impact and seeing their role both for themselves and for the larger community. And this is inspiring for us in Israel, because you have to understand, we are a small country, so we needed to reach out for the sales of our companies to the US and to Europe and to Asia and to South America and North America and Africa. But the one region that we haven't had enough contacts is our own region. And it's therefore so moving. And I think that the UAE and Israel have in common is that they're much larger than their actual size. So the UAE is reaching 2.5 billion people with the kind of trade and the kind of activity that is really exciting to see. And I think Israel is also playing a central role in many of the hubs of innovation around the world as well. And so if I look at what we can do together, first of all, we at JVP, we and Margalit Startup City, we want to be investors in the UAE. We are looking for the opportunity to bring together two centers of excellence, either Dubai or Abu Dhabi. We're still listening and learning where it all makes sense. One is around AI and cyber and fintech and AI, which relates to healthcare IT as well. So there's a big AI initiative and companies that are scaling, and we want to take a few of them together and allow them to have a presence and look for companies in those spaces as well, and to do something that is going to be interesting for our ecosystem and understand better your ecosystem. The second thing is around food tech and ag tech. One of the biggest areas of change in the environment and in the world is going to be the way we look at food and agriculture in the next few years. Our region is in big need for new food strategies and agricultural strategies and water strategies. And I think that one of the things that's going to be most interesting to us is we expect this to be a public-private partnership. In other words, there's a big initiative that Israel's embarking on. And we know that, we're connecting both to the West Coast and the US, which this is becoming a big theme, the East Coast with Cornell and what we're doing in our hub in New York, Cornell, Rutgers, Holland, Wageningen, and a variety of additional agriculture universities, Paris, Milano. So there's just a big effort that I think that various countries will have over the next few years. And if we can establish a strong cooperative set of efforts between our two countries into the region and into the world, I think that would be amazing. And so, if I have to look at the trip and some of the conclusions from our trip and the company's interaction, is that these are the two kind of hubs that we would like to build either in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, and invite several nationalities, additional nationalities, to join us in the process as we try to create a center of excellence.
So let's build on that. So first question, I guess goes to both of you guys, is around this center of excellence concept. This sounds very interesting. If you don't mind, I kind of want to understand what when you say center of excellence, what does that really mean? What does that entail? And then when we talk about that in regards to how do we collaborate or build that center of excellence across both startup ecosystems? How can we do that? What are your thoughts?
So let's look at what we just did in New York with New York City. Sure. And let's look, every center can be a little different than the other, but in New York City, what we did is the city set up a tender to create a cyber AI fintech center of excellence. And we joined forces with Columbia University, Cornell, NYU, and CUNY, the City University. And what we did is we took a big center downtown in Soho. It's a great building, by the way. There's the best coffee in the neighborhood there. And we just opened a great art exhibition, and my wife is presenting there as a painter. You're welcome to come and see. And that has about now 28 companies from all over the world, which are working on large cyber AI fintech projects. All these companies have scale, so they have something like $10 million of revenues at a minimum. And so they're hiring people, they're interacting with customers, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Citi on the financial side are involved. The city of New York is involved in terms of smart city strategies. The universities are involved. So we've helped set up an accelerator in each one of the universities. And so there's a whole dialogue. New York is a very strong city in terms of business and finance, and large companies like Facebook and Google and Microsoft have set up shop. But one thing that we all said to each other is that if New York wants to give the West Coast a run for its money, it needs to partner with Israel and get down to the street, not just in the very successful financial organization. And so I think that one of the things that is great to see is how the young people are getting involved in the early stages, the universities, and then investors. And I think I would envision something similar over time. So, and right now what we're doing in New York together with Cornell, we're thinking of adding the Food Tech and Ag Tech Center because the West Coast has a big initiative in that area. And we think that the East Coast in the United States needs to have one as well. So if I'm looking at some of the free trade zones that exist in Dubai or, Abu Dhabi or around the country, and if I'm looking at some of the strategies in different areas, I think that for one, it's concentrating a variety of Israeli and international companies that are coming to Dubai or Abu Dhabi. Two is identifying strong companies in the region, of course, Emirati companies, but also from neighboring countries, some of which we can invest in, some others could invest in, but it's creating a better understanding between the customers, the new companies, and some of the other parts of the regions that you can reach as well.
Amazing. So thank you, Dr. Said. I'd love to get your thoughts on what are we doing in the UAE in reference to something similar like a center of excellence. Does that kind of exist that you're aware of?
Yes, Damu. UAE for the last, let's say, 5 years has came up with strategies. We have a strategy for the fourth industrial revolution, which was announced almost in the year 2016, 2017. And the UAE has established a center for the fourth industrial revolution in Dubai, focusing more on the emerging technologies such as AI, blockchain, and precision medicine is one of the areas. We work very closely with the World Economic Forum on that Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and we have piloted, for example, blockchain use cases where I feel that we are very advanced compared probably to other countries where they have still in the POC stage, but we have built a couple of blockchain use cases for the government. Yes, this is one area, is the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution that is in Dubai, in the area 2071 or in Emirates Towers. We are also looking to build a center of excellence for the AI, as we have the UAE AI Strategy 2031, which really an aspiring strategy for the country to be a leader in the AI by 2030. And I have spoken probably last week on one of my presentation. This was a presentation that was invited by University of Bolton here in the UAE in Ras Al Khaimah. And the title of that presentation is that how the UAE can be at the forefront of the AI race. We definitely see countries around the world are racing and with their AI strategies. But we have an ambitious really strategy, and we want to establish a center of excellence in the AI. We have very strong companies in the AI. I think Israel is also very advanced in robotics and AI. And for example, we have Abu Dhabi-based company G42 It's a leading company. It's an initiative, private initiative from Abu Dhabi with China, and we having as part of that company, the G42, an institute underneath that company called Inception Institute, where they recruited scientists, machine learning scientists, data scientists, to work on some of the challenging issues facing the society. So the concept of Center of Excellence is really at the heart of what we do. And again, another area where we want to really to build a Center of Excellence is the clean tech, is sustainability. You know that our leadership, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, is championing this renewable energy. We are hosting the International Renewable Energy Organization here in Abu Dhabi, and we have every year, we have in January the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week. So a lot of things are going into the clean tech, with Masdar city as the net zero city that is established. So I think we have strategies to focus on some of Center of Excellences, such as the fourth industrial revolution, renewable energy, clean tech, AI, and we are progressing in this. One of the things I think which we have learned from this pandemic, COVID-19, is the biotech, is the importance of biotech. We see now war going on between those companies who are announcing their vaccines, week after week, from Pfizer to Moderna, which came this week. And by the way, we are investing, the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority has invested a good amount of money in Moderna. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. And so we see the area of biotech, I think, is one of the things that we want to focus on. Lately, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President of the UAE, the ruler of Dubai, has commissioned a center for medical research in Dubai for around 300 million dirhams. That is about, I think, around around about 60 to 70 million US dollar. So to answer your question is this: yes, we focus on Center of Excellences, and I think we can work closely with Israel now, because like Errol has said, we share commonalities between our economy, between Israel economy and between the UAE economy. Israel is one of the leading nations when it comes to startup techs. It was identified as one of the top 10 countries in the world and startups, according to the global startup index. So hopefully that this normalization of the relationship between the two countries will bring a lot of opportunities, for both.
Yeah, thank you. So, Arel, I kind of go back to you real quick. So, Dr. Said talked about how Israel is one of the top 10 when it comes to startup ecosystems in the world on the index. And so, since you're one of the architects of the startup ecosystem in Israel, kind of want to get your thoughts on practical. How did you guys actually build that? What are the things, what is the ingredients? What does that look like to build a top 10 startup ecosystem, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know. We just bust our ass every day, but we're working on a few deals. First of all, it's very inspiring, Dr. Said, and I think it's wonderful to hear about some of the initiatives, and we will try to understand and listen and understand better on some of the things that you are embarking on. It would be extremely interesting for us. One of the things that I missed on my last visit is visiting with universities and speaking with some of the faculties and some of the the students in each one of the universities, which to me is always key when we look at an ecosystem. So, Damu, for us, innovation was a way to change cities, and after a while to change our country, because the more traditional economy, we're a relatively small country, And I think, we have been doing agriculture and a variety of additional industries, but it's not until we really understood how to take the science and the learning that many of the people were engaged in and connect them to the international business that the economy really began to move. So it's only in the last 25 years or so that the economy changed here completely. And I think most of the change has to do with the emergence of different technologies. In the 90s, it was about the communication revolutions. Israelis, because of the deep defense training in wireless or fiber optics or different technologies, we were instrumental in helping the world move from voice systems on the telephone to data and then to video. And so I think we were involved in a lot of the inventions inside that process. Then, of course, it's the enterprise. Companies like SAP and others were the ERP vendors, but a lot of software companies served the enterprises. And then all hell broke loose in the beginning of the year 2000, where a lot of the communication revolution stopped for a while. And so we needed to find new areas, and the areas for us were AI, and then it was called BI. So we had in JVP, we had a few of the large companies. By the way, not only from Israel, we invested in ClickTech, which became one of the leading in BI. So it was Swedish, Israeli, American, very mixed. And then cybersecurity also for defense. So large banks, large insurance companies, large utilities, all needed to be protected as their business processes were being tampered with. And then, recently cybersecurity has been something that was helping not only protect the large organizations, but also democracy and individuals. So, the integrity of information, because many of the elections around the world were actually hacked and attacked. So this is becoming another interesting area. And then, as Dr. Saeed said, AI is now going into healthcare, because the world after COVID understands that you cannot do everything just from the large medical centers. As good as they may be, you need to be able to serve people at their homes. You need to be able to serve people at their communities. And a lot of the AI strategies that were used in other businesses need to come into the healthcare system. So this is something that we will be working on. And, and then some new areas. And one of the things that I think that we are doing in Israel, not always successfully, but we're trying to have different cities lead different centers of excellence. So the Galilee now, which on one hand is a beautiful agricultural communities that has Arabs and Jews and Druze and kibbutzim and cities, was a little bit behind on the economical development. And what we did over the last 5 years, we took the agricultural and food excellence and brought it and married it together with the high-tech initiatives. And now we're creating one of the largest initiatives in food tech and ag tech, which we see is crucial for food security for different countries around the world, and also for the environment, because agriculture cannot continue to slaughter 5 billion animals a year for feeding humanity. You need new protein, you need new, and water are scarce, and it's getting hotter. And we feel that agriculture and food is probably one of the biggest impacts on the environment than any other area. So Europe, I think, gets it. The US is beginning to get it. But this is going to be a big change. And so for our region, which historically was called the Fertile Crescent,
interesting.
Has big, because wheat was domesticated first in our region, and agricultural community was first around Jordan, and then came into what today is Israel, and so it's the Fertile Crescent. So I think that because there's challenges around food and around agriculture in our region, this is something that I think together with the UAE, we can identify key technologies that perhaps would be big agricultural projects in Egypt or in Morocco, not just in our respective, or in Africa. We now have a new diplomatic relationship with Sudan, which probably has the most fertile land anywhere in the world. But if we can work together on a strategy between our two countries and, one or two countries in Africa, I think we can bring some really cool strategies to the table.
Very good. Very interesting. Here's a question I think crosses both nations, which is really around localization. Do you feel that technology bridges localization, or a better statement, is localization a factor? Does it matter? That's a question for both of you.
If you allow me, Damo, to answer this, I think this is an important area. Yes, localization. If any lesson that we can really learn from this, again, COVID-19 pandemic is the disruption of the supply chain industry worldwide. So we opted now in the UAE for localization, especially when it comes to farming. And like Errol said, this is one of the focus area, I think, which we are discussing now with Israel. There has been a meeting, I think, in August between businessmen from the UAE and Israelis to discuss some of the opportunities. So agri-tech is one of the area. We have a good startup here in Abu Dhabi called World of Farming, which is again providing smart vertical farming solution, for the UAE. So the issue of food security, water and food security, I think has been identified as a priority for the country, and we are working very closely with the local startups, as well as we are looking into other startups from Israel or from anywhere in the world who can solve some of the challenges that the world faces now, especially when it comes to food and water security. Another thing which I want to really to bring is this. I mean, as we talk about opportunities between the two countries, just last August, after signing the Abraham Accord agreement, one of the companies here in the Abu Dhabi, the UAE Apex National Investment Company, has signed an agreement with the Israeli Tira Group to cooperate on research and development related to COVID-19, including a testing device. And I think this is one of the area which, because I came from an academic background, so would be of interest to me is really to strengthen our relationship in the R&D space. Because if you look into the international indices, I believe we are weak in this area. Yes, we have universities, we have research centers, but yet we need to capitalize on R&D and to link it closely to the industry, to the societal problem. And I think this is, again, another opportunity where I feel, R&D in certain areas in Israel is very strong, and we can do this collaboration between universities. So Errol, when you come to visit next time, please let me know, and I will, take you into some of the universities here in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, where we can explore some of the ways where we can really collaborate.
Amazing.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much. Yes.
See, that's the real beauty of doing these events like this. One, each of you, hopefully, not just you two, but also our entire audience, is learning about things that are happening in both countries, right? That they didn't know before. So different initiatives that are happening. And then more importantly, now it's an opportunity for us to see, where do we collaborate? Where are the opportunities at, and where do they exist? And so I kind of want to build on that. And, when there's so many opportunities, how do you focus? And this is a question that I think all entrepreneurs struggle with, which is you sometimes you have this amazing thing happening in AI, this amazing thing happening in fashion, ed tech, cyber. How do you and as an entrepreneur, most of the people on the line are budding entrepreneurs, meaning they haven't got there they haven't reached that cross the chasm, so to speak. So what's your words of wisdom to them to be focused, and what should they focus on? I think Sada is here as well. Are you there, Sada?
Yes, I'm here. I'm so sorry. I've been having so much difficulties. Zoom keeps signing me out for some reason.
Okay, sure. So I know you're in the fashion space. Would love to get your thoughts about,
Yeah.
how do we stay focused?
Yeah. So the thing is, first of all, opportunities don't grow on trees. So when you get an opportunity your way, you got to use it. But what if you get hit by so many opportunities? You don't have the time to try it all. You should take risks, but you should take calculated risks. I mean, in the end, if you look around, everyone is the burger is going through an evolution, but McDonald's is still McDonald's, and it's doing so well. So sometimes, not taking opportunities that will take you to different directions is better for you, as long as you find something that fits what you do. So basically, especially like most of my companies are tech, and in tech every day there's something new. So when we look at opportunities, we look, does it fit the brand? Does it fit the vision? Will it help us when it comes to sales? Will it help us with this? So we look at so many things before jumping on any opportunity, because time is precious. And taking risk is a must, but taking calculated risks is the best. And you can't be a successful entrepreneur if you have your hands and legs all over the place. So take an opportunity, stay focused on that opportunity. It works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. Because what people don't understand is that innovation is an ecosystem. It's not just I create a beautiful idea or something that's never been done before, although I think innovation is taking something that exists and doing it in a better way. But what they don't understand is that it's an ecosystem. You don't just do one thing and you stay comfortable. You do one thing. For example, if I innovated a business, I have to look at price innovation, marketing innovation, sustainable innovation, teamwork innovation. So when it comes to innovation, it's an ecosystem, and if one is missing, then the sustainability of innovation doesn't stay. And I always tell people, before you innovate in the company and the product and all that, innovate in the way you work with your staff, because it's not about just it's not about how much money you make. It's also about how you make your money. It's very important. So leadership is a big aspect of it. And when you have great leadership skills, your team helps you take the best decisions with you when it comes to opportunities. And I'm the type of person that I believe as a leader, I hire people that are smarter than me, because I'm a student of life. I want to learn. I'm selfish. I want to learn from everybody. So I always hire people that are smarter than me. And these people help me take better decisions, teach me about opportunities that I should take or should not take. And when you're a great leader and there's a synergy between the team, it's easier to take risks and decisions. Otherwise, if there's no synergy, nobody's going to care. Okay, you want to do this? Let's do this. Fine. You want to do that? Let's do that. Fine. Let's try this. Let's try that. But when there's a synergy and there's like a sustainable relationship internally, the outcome is always better, because your employees will look at your company as if it's their own, and will look after it as if it's their own. So for me, when I take chances or opportunities with my tech companies, I always go back to my employees and I ask them, and they take decisions as if they own the company. And then you look at yourself and you're like, okay, this really pays off, management versus leadership. It really pays off. So, but stay focused, take chances and opportunities one step at a time, because you're not the jack of all trades. And it's okay to not know how to do some things. And it's okay to not be good at some things. Just take what you're good at, be efficient at it, and take one step at a time, basically.
Amazing. Thank you. I want to build on that and ask a question to the rest of the panel about, I understand you can't do it all. And so you have to build your team. And so when we're talking about collaborating the two, countries' startup ecosystems, how do we build that team? What does that team, first of all, look like? And then two, how do we get them communicating with each other? I'm asking you guys all the tough questions tonight.
I don't know. I think, Damu, there are two things here we need to distinguish between. One is collaboration on government level. And I think this is going really well between the two countries already since the signing of the accord, of the Abraham Accord agreement. There were some opportunities were identified between the two governments, the UAE and Israel, and it's pursued. So that is one area. They know exactly what they are looking for, and they know what areas they want to collaborate on. So, for example, this G42 company, which is based in Abu Dhabi, have already announced, establishing an office in Israel. And the purpose of establishing an office in Tel Aviv is really to be a gateway for the technologies and for the R&D in AI, trying to bridge that, try to bridge that thing between the two countries, bringing technologies and R&D to the UAE. So this is in the government level. On the private level, I think what I would really suggest is to have this, what you call it, establish a UAE Israeli Business Council, which they can look into opportunities more, identify certain opportunities, and then try to link investors, startups, into those opportunities. And this is a traditional way of doing business between the countries. We have those they call it friendship council. There is a business council, for example, between UAE and the US. There is another council with UK. So I would assume that probably we need to create that council who looks into identify opportunities and then bring it to the private sector, to the startups, to the investors. And I was really surprised to know that also last month, it was in September, an MOU signed between, it was a partnership for a tech fund to be established between Phoenix Capital as an investment platform of an Abuda group here in Dubai, and our crowd, probably Errol, I think, knows about our crowd, is an Israeli venture capital to back tech investment in the areas of agri-tech, healthcare, AI, and robotics. So they have signed this agreement to have to put a $100 million fund to explore the area of collaboration between startups from both countries into those areas. So I think it's important, I mean, to look into these two things between what the governments are trying to do, and also on a private level, what the investors and the startups want to collaborate through, either a council that is going to be established or so forth. I think next month coming in GITEX, there is this high-tech conference, the inaugural GITEX UAE Israeli Future Digital Economy Summit, that will be coming on from I believe from 5th to the 8th of December during GITEX, and there will be people coming from both countries on the ministerial level, high delegate level, to discuss some of the opportunities between the two countries.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that information. I definitely didn't know that. So thank you. I want to build on that as well. And really, so it says GITEX from the 6th to the 9th. First of all, like I said, do you want to talk about what GITEX is? Or I could read something if you want me to.
Sure. I mean, I witnessed this event since I was a student at the university. At that time, was it I believe in 1982, it started GITEX in Dubai. This is by far the largest computer show, after Las Vegas, CX computer show in Las Vegas. It's basically bringing the industry, the tech industry, not just only from the UAE, but also from the region and from around the world. Part of this GITEX, I think for the past four years, they have a big hall that is for startups, to demonstrate their solutions and to pitch their ideas to investors. So it's by far the largest computer and IT event in the Middle East. It's an annual event, usually happens in October. And I think this year it's going to be physical, although with the COVID-19 spread around the world. But I say, Alhamdulillah, UAE proved to be one of the safest heavens in the world for COVID-19, thanks to our leadership. Although maybe sometimes we complain about testing, but I think it's for the benefit of us, I travel between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and every time I need to go to Dubai, I need to do testing 3 times. A testing to come to Abu Dhabi, and a testing on 4th day. These are PCR testing, and a testing on 8th day. So imagine how many, we are a country of about 9.5 million, maybe 9.7 million people, but we have conducted more than 11 million tests so far. And it's growing. So yeah, this is about GITEX, and I urge everybody, if they can really travel and come attend GITEX, it's really one of the interesting events in the UAE.
Amazing. Everyone keeps talking about it, but we haven't really addressed the one thing, which is COVID-19. It's here. It's not going away anytime soon. And so I just want to have like a general question, which is, what are your words of wisdom? What do you, again, we have about 100 plus people that have joined today, and you all are experts in your own domain. So what are some words of wisdom you would like to share to the audience about, how do we, accept the reality of COVID, and how do we collaborate and build something together? What are next steps? Trick question.
Sure, I can do that. It's Irel. Get back to work, guys. Zoom is great, but it occupies about 1/2 of your brain, and you have the other half to work with. So be careful, be safe. But I think you're going to see a big difference around the world between cities that are in shock and cities that get back to business. And even if you get back to business very slow, even if you just open with 20-30% of the workforce, and as Dr. Saeed said, even if you need to go through 3 tests, we have now in our New York hub a 15-minute test, and fine, but find the right strategy to go back and meet some of your colleagues and get together to personal meetings. In JVP in Jerusalem, ahlan wa sahlan, you can come and sit in the garden, and we can have chickpea protein or just plain hummus, and people need to meet each other. So, but I think you're going to see a big difference between cities that are coming up with the right strategies. And the right strategies is not to take the entire country as one block, but to really have a sort of green zones and yellow zones and red zones, and to take care and use AI in order to understand really what's going on in each one of your communities, and identify, there's going to be unfortunately some problematic challenges, whether it's weddings or gatherings or sometimes even prayer. Different kind of gatherings cause different challenges, but so one has to be careful. But so my advice, in our hub in New York, we have 28 companies that got back to work. We're very careful. We're checking each other. We took the cafe out to the street on Grand Street if anybody wants some good coffee and a small sandwich. But I think the companies are creating. The other thing is COVID. The world is still at a crisis. Okay. So stack yourself with cash if you're a company. Have enough cash for the next 18 or 24 months. And the third, cut some of the unnecessary costs. Just be frank with yourself. And then the other advice is look around you. Technology now provides some of the biggest opportunities in the post-COVID era, whether it's working from home, the systems, the cyber exposure. whether it's remote care when it comes to healthcare, whether it's countries needing to have their own food strategies, whether it's finding new, I mean, I just saw a company today that has an amazing strategy for new education strategies and the ability to collaborate from afar. Education is probably going to have the biggest change in technology, because education today is still text, boom, 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 and the rest of the world is video and visual. And I know that since the establishment of the print, some people are considered very smart because they adopt to the text. But there's other people with other kinds of intelligence that think about the end of the story before they think of the beginning. Sometimes these guys are the actual geniuses. And so you give them a place, and visual technologies are just going to be as important as textual technologies. You know, and I think that Sarah said that, I mean, focus. Don't do 5 things. Do one thing well. And you know, if you looked at the book Outliers, you know that the greatest example that I have is the Beatles. Everybody thinks they're geniuses, but they forget that before they became geniuses, they played for 5 years, 8 hours a night in Hamburg in some cafes, and until they became very, very good. And so in order to become very good at a certain area and invent something that will disrupt the world, you need to dedicate a lot of your time and expertise to that space, and surround yourself, as Sarah said, with people that are smarter than you. In your case, Dano, I think it's going to be very difficult. You may not hire anybody for the next year if you give it as a consideration, but try, you know, try.
That's hilarious. Now, there's 2 points I want to bring up real quick. First of all, thank you for the compliment. I definitely appreciate it. To echo what you just said, a lot of people don't know this, but the largest company on the planet today is Amazon. Amazon is about 25-year-old company, and it was literally not profitable for 14 years. So pretty much half of the time that the company's been in existence, right, was not profitable. And then today it is the largest company in the world. So point is that you talked about earlier, focus. They focused and they were able to achieve something.
And just to echo that, CyberArk, one of our companies, that was started by 4 guys from an underprivileged neighborhood in Jerusalem. It took us 10 years to reach $30 million, which is not so impressive. But you know what happened? A lot of the other investors at that point wanted to sell their position. And so we told them, okay, but we don't want to sell the company. You can sell your position. We can buy your position. And then the founders came to me and said, well, Erel, you've already succeeded in high tech. And so, but we come from humble beginnings. We don't have a house, we don't have a car, and we don't have anything for the education of our kids. So we said, okay, we will buy 1/3 of your position for the price that these guys want, and you can bring some money home. Now let's go build a company. And it's only after 12 years that we started building the company. Now the company is around 5 billion. And, it didn't come easy, and exactly right. I mean, not everything is so quick to be successful, but you need patience, but you also need good people around you that if you're on the wrong track, they will gently tell you, hey, my friend,
jump off.
Maybe you should consider a different strategy.
Very good. I have like maybe one more question that I wanted to ask you that if you don't mind, I want to open it up to the community. So one of the big things we do with Startup Grind is we try to, again, educate, inspire, and connect. And today you all have been sharing some phenomenal information. You've been educating all of us, including myself and Shakar. But in addition to that, you've been inspiring, I think, all 100 plus people that are still here, right? And so I want to give the community an opportunity to share some of their questions as well, because it's very hard to get time with people like you guys. And so we're very honored and again, appreciate this opportunity. So if you have questions, please list it in the comment section and we will be sure to ask them hopefully after this 1 or 2 next questions. Dr. Saeed, I want to ask you a quick question if you don't mind. I want to understand from your standpoint, you know, when we talk about the startup ecosystem here in the UAE, you know, what are some of the things that you want to see happen from this community to allow us to start building bridges with Israel?
A good question, Damo. I think our startup ecosystem is becoming a bit mature now. As we UAE is by far, I think, the hub for tech startups. You know, in the MENA region. We have companies or startups that became unicorn, you know, Noon.com as an investment from Mohammed Al Abbar, who put almost $1 billion, you know, from his pocket in Noon.com. But Souk, which became Amazon.ae, and Kareem again, which was bought by Uber. So we have focus on other areas that I think transportation and logistics is an important, and we see one of the feature which dubbed to be the next desert unicorn. It's a startup for delivery based on GPS location. In the fintech space, we have very good startups, Souk Al Mal, Yalla Compare. These in financial provide financial comparison services. We have Beehive, doing business loans. As far as marketplaces, we have Property Finder and urban platforms, which allow renters to view and visit properties and parent online. But I think, to make this ecosystem really mature, we need, as I was always, promoting, is for the UAE entrepreneurs, for the UAE tech entrepreneurs. To grow UAE tech entrepreneurs. So it's important to have entrepreneurship in schools, and we're doing good in that. We have summer camps, entrepreneurship summer camps, both in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai, for high school students and for college students. And like His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid has said, I mean, with his vision, which really an inspiring, and I wrote about it in our book, Digital Nation. And we said that we take the leadership vision as a personal quest, to deliver. And on his mind, and this became one of the articles in the 50th year charter. And he said that it's not just only graduating the students. We don't want just only to graduate students, but to graduate companies. So having the universities as free zones, and this is just started now in the UAE for every university to have their innovation park, to try to take the innovations and from project idea to prototyping to commercialization. And we've seen brilliant students who came up with ideas, from universities, and now they have established their startup companies. But I believe also it's about institution and policy and regulation. I think UAE is not doing bad when it comes to that. We have opened a RegLab. It's called regulatory as a sandbox environment for regulation. It's like, coming from the same agile manifestos that do things at iteration. And this is really good. For example, look at the world. For how many years they've been saying about the autonomous car, and they put prediction, but those predictions never happened. Still, autonomous car is not in reality. Although the technology is there, but it's more than just a technology. It's about acceptance of the society. It's about, the regulation. It's about the policy, So I think when it comes to that, we are doing good, but at the same time, we have this Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and we have to cope up with the changes. And the best way to cope up with the changes is really to be agile and to be, when it comes to policy making, and to work hand in hand with the technology on a trial error and see what works, what doesn't work, and then try to come up with the policies and regulation in that regard. I mean, now we're talking about AI and autonomous car, but look what's coming in the future with the genetic engineering, with the CRISPR technology. It's going to bring, you know, tremendous ethical issues that the world will face. And if we are not ready, you know, we're gonna look and see, oh, how we can manage this.
Interesting. I see you're very passionate about this, and thank you for sharing your passion with us. I have just, I want to kind of pivot to one other quick question, then I'll move on to the community questions. But first of all, thank you so much for that that response. The question is, I think every single entrepreneur faces this challenge, which is around capital, right? And so Arel talked a little bit earlier about one of his investments, I think 12 or 14 years ago. I think only after 12 years they were generating 30 million, and he was like, that's small money. But for most entrepreneurs like myself, we're not at that level yet. And so this is kind of a question for both of you guys. I know you've invested in many projects. It's really along the lines of, you know, what are during these COVID times, these very unique times, where we see the two nations are trying to, you know, bridge opportunities together and collaborate and, you know, bring the communities together. You know, where do you see the opportunities for startups to find capital to be able to try and work on these collaborative initiatives? We just want to get your thoughts. I know that's a very difficult question, if you don't mind, but hopefully I get an answer.
No, I think it's, you know, we're in the trenches working with our companies to raise money when they reach certain milestones. Sometimes they still do not reach certain milestones and you still need to raise money. So I think that crystallizing the plan, the vision, the business plan, making it very clear what you need the money for, what it is that you're building. You're not always building the leading company in the world in your space, but you still need to be clear, what are you trying to do? Even if you're just, you know, beginning, and why what you're doing is outstanding in one respect or the other. I think that I apologize for my dog. She's seeing some people, and I think there's a few wolves here in the mountains, so they get her edgy when it comes to the evening. Anyway, but and you know, just to give you a picture, I live in Jerusalem, in Karim. In Karim, look up this neighborhood. It's a biblical place for the three religions, and there's great water coming out of the mountain here, and vines, and mountains, sort of like Tuscany, but in Jerusalem. So look it up. It's but the wolves are making noise at night, so they get the dogs nervous. Anyway, so I think that you need to have good partners as investors. They can be angels or people that you know really well, but sooner rather than later, if you're building a significant company, you need to have partners that will support you when things are good. And then sometimes if you guys are not on track with your original plans, entrepreneurs and investors, they will help you reconfigure, you know, the new strategy. But once you agree on a new strategy, I think having the internal investors being committed and then inviting some other people that could be supportive as well, you know, that's very important. And then once you're able to get the equity, remember that you can extend your runway a little bit with the right kind of debt provider as well. And you don't have to take money in, you know, in gray market terms. Today, the interest rates are a little lower. If there are banks that are working with you on multiple deals, they could be supportive, and you can have yourself a runway to get to the next milestone that would be really attractive to some new entrepreneurs as well.
Amazing.
So, That's hard work.
No, absolutely. I'd like to say if you want to comment on that as well. If not, I want to open the questions to the community. I know we are very short on time.
Guys, I need to try to close with a new CEO for one of our Israel West Coast companies, and this guy people are chasing him with offers. So I need to be on time, and I need to give him an offer, and I don't know if we can afford it, but I still need to give him the offer. So I will need to step off the call in about 2 minutes. So I'm really enjoying the conversation, Dr. Saeed and Sarah and Damu. I mean, you guys are inspiring, and it's an amazing group. Thank you so much.
So then let's do this for the sake of time. I would like to just leave it with the both of you to say kind of your final thoughts. But actually before that, I know that leaders are readers. And I see in your background, both of you have amazing libraries behind you. If you don't mind maybe sharing with the audience, what are some of your favorite books or something that you're reading today, right?
So I want to show you this book. Israel has a book called Startup Nation, but this book is called Startup Rising. And it's about startups in the Arab world in different capitals, in Casablanca, in Tunisia, in Cairo, in Amman, in Dubai, in Riyadh. It needs to be updated, but it's one of my best friends, Christopher Schroeder, who wrote it. Okay. And I really recommend it. And you should give us more ideas and more entrepreneurs, because we want to write a new book about how Israel and the UAE
making it happen.
Took the 2.5 billion customers around the UAE and the people that are connected to Israel and just build some of the next big startups in the system.
Love it. Dr. Saeed, your turn, if you don't mind.
For me, I'm reading at the moment Peter Diamandis' book, The Future is Closer Than We Think. It's really great book talking about some of the technologies, 21st century technologies, AI, I think. And at the same time, I'm reading this book by Charles Handy, 21 Letters on Life and Challenges. It's really it's a futurist and one of the 50 most influential people, in the world. So, taking a word of wisdom, and definitely, like you said, Damu, I keep reading my book and trying, to figure out what would be my next step, for 2021.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Digital Nation. That's interesting.
Right. And I want, if you guys don't mind, please share with us some final thoughts, your final words of wisdom, just whatever you want to inspire us with, some gems. We appreciate it. And I'll close it on that note.
Okay, so there's going to be an expo, right, in the UAE next year. Yeah. So one thing that we're working on with the great minister that is overseeing, an amazing woman that's overseeing the expo, is trying to work on an innovation set of projects around a few countries in our region. So anybody who has some ideas, we are thinking of this: 10 cities, 10 projects, 10 steps that would change how people think about our region. And we call it the power of Yalla.
The power of Yalla. Interesting.
Yalla. I love it. Amazing. I'd like to say.
All right. Thanks, guys.
For me.
Thank you, Errol.
Thank you, Errol.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Dr. Saeed. Thank you. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
All the best.
For me, Damu, I think we have to look for a purpose bigger than we are, and we have to live for a purpose of really influencing and changing the world. I mean, we should not underestimate, what we do and how we can inspire the youth and the future generation. I think of one thing that we learned from COVID. Has been now the talk in the World Economic Forum is the Great Reset, is the society. We need to think of our society. We need to think of the place where we live, this earth, and how we can make it a better place, not just only for us, but for our future generation.
Agreed. Amazing. Thank you so very much. Audience, I really appreciate everyone joining today. This has been an amazing event, amazing turnout, at least for us here in Dubai and Shaka and Israel. On behalf of the two chapters, I'd love to say thank you so very much for joining us. And always remember, you're awesome. And the reason why we do Startup Grind is to educate, inspire, and connect us all. So with that, have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Damu.
Take care.